Yeah, good evening or good morning, class. I'm Professor Karwani. I'll take you through Introduction to Human Geography, basically on physical resources and environmental conservation. This being an introduction is part of knowledge area 2. The relationship between population and the environment actually takes three variables, as you can see: population, resource, and environment. Now here the key factor is population, ourselves, the human population, and the human activities depend on resources, that is Ara, and the resources in this case are the natural resources, including land, food, water, air, energy, and minerals for survival. Both the population and the resources depend on are found in the environment. Thus, the environment acts like a custodian of both in the ecosystem. So we can put this under a mathematical model, like P plus R is equal to E. That is, if, for example, you let R to vary, then there will be some impact on the environment. But if you also let P to vary, also it has some impact on the environment. So you can interpret this in a simple model like that. The objective of this presentation is to explain the relationship between population and the environment, and to relate population and resources through concept of carrying capacity. Now, the population resources environment relationship is a long historical relationship termed as man and land. Man has always been interacting with the land since man was created on earth. So this relationship does not start now, it started, it's a historical issue. Now, the purpose here is to see how man is always trying to achieve well-being of the population in terms of health, economically, politically, and what so. But also, the concern here is to achieve environmental impact on human settlement on the earth. That's why in geography, say geography is the study of the home of man. Man, regardless of the sex, including female and male. So, these are the two purposes which are main drivers to study the relationship between population, resources, and environment. Now, carrying capacity, defined here as the upper limit placed on the population by its environment or resources, and it cannot be exceeded. That is, the population in the environment, when it is left to increase, it continues to increase up to a point whereby the resources are exhausted. So, in that case, we say that the carrying capacity of that particular area has been reached. That is the upper area. So the problem starts when you want to exceed beyond the carrying capacity. Now, the carrying capacity here now acts as a tool of analysis in the population resources relationship. It hypothesizes that there is a limit of population increase, a fixed environment. See? Now you have to note some few things before we proceed here. This is carrying capacity is not quantitatively fixed all the time. It is determined by various factors. These here are three factors. One is actions or activities of a particular population. The population always have certain activities taking place to make people survive economically, they have economic activities, farming, cutting timber, mining, and so on. So these also have impact on the environment. Second, the application of technology to reduce or control population increase. Since population and the resources are directly related, once you control the population, say although you slow down the rate of population increase, it has some impact to the resources, that is, to some extent to save the resources. But also on the extreme side, cases like wars, reduce population to be below the upper limit. Yeah, these are negative incentives which are, according to Marthas, they check the population when they increase. Although these concepts are historical, these things still happen today. In areas like Somalia, and where there are competition over land, you find the conflicts are there in Africa and even in the other continents. So this is an impact of population, a conflict over resources, especially when they are limited. Carrying capacity importance. One might ask, why study carrying capacity? One, it analyzes the pressure over resources in many low technology societies. I'm saying purposely that low technology society because where technologies go higher, there are ways of of coping with the carrying capacity of the land, whether it has been reached in the upper limits. I explain this later. For example, next is on developed countries. Population pressure over resources actually stimulates innovations. We have Bozara, 1965, say that population pressure is not actually a curse. It stimulates people to think, and they can make innovation. For example, in this case, regarding occupations or human activities, you can think more about modern technology of agriculture to cope with the situation. So, for developed countries. Now, resolve. In the developing countries, for example, one way of containing the population pressure over resources is rural-urban migration. Moving from scarcity of resources to moving from the resource pressure to somewhere where there is slightly slow population pressure. You can see people migrate from the rural, which is poverty-stricken, to urban areas with the hope, with the expectation of getting jobs, getting employment, and so on. But in general, carrying capacity has incited or initiated trade. When the carrying capacity of an agricultural land is saturated, people now think of how to exchange. They can turn to trade because in order to cope with the situation. Now, population resources regions. You see, resources are not even distributed on the earth. We have regions which are resourcing jobs, and we have regions which have limited resources. Here we are referring to the natural resources. Now, we also have regions which have advanced technology like the developed countries, but we have developing countries which are relatively have little or have no advanced technology for exploitation and dominance of resources. So these variations are the one which actually make population resource regions to differ in terms of socio-economic development. Now, for example, using the resource utilization political economic criteria, the world now is divided to north-south. This is that's the north, the northern hemisphere, and the poor who are occupying the regions in the southern hemisphere. So this is just a one way of expressing how the regional differentiation between developed and developing countries. Now, let's try to see. We have said that we can divide the world according to political economists. They divide the world into two, the North and South. Now, each of these two different regions have different characteristics. The North regions are grouped in two. One is the USA, the United States of America, where population is relatively low compared to the abundant resources. Also, Europe and Japan belong to this group. They have relatively high population compared to abundant to resources, but rich because they possess technology, hence exploit more resources from poor countries. So that's the North. To the South, again, you have some subdivisions. Some are a bit advanced, some are a little bit lagging behind. You have China, which has high population relative to resources, but rapidly growing in technology, competing with Europe, Japan, and the USA. They also use technology to secure more resources from poor nations. For example, now in Africa, the Chinese are around at different economic development projects. So we are utilizing our technology, not freely, but we are utilizing it in the form of exchange of forex. So we have again Brazil. This one lack of indigenous technology, low population relative to resources, but poor population, but rapidly growing. See now, and we have now hot and cold deserts. They are characterized by high mountain areas, limited land for agriculture and food. Only radical change in technology is needed actually to make these areas habitable. Maybe because we are in the era of technological advancement, could be there are ways where they can improve the environment, but it's extremely cold. Although now due to climate change now, there are changes, the ice is melting, I don't know what will happen later. Now, at this juncture, I thought that the activity that you can do is to answer these questions. To what extent is the concept of carrying capacity explain the relationship between population and resources? Secondly, identify and discuss the relationship between population and environment in any area familiar to you. You can use the local areas. You can use, even in East Africa, we have 3 or about 5 countries. You can use one of them. So, try to do this activity in order to internalize the knowledge which has been presented. Next is the major resources. Here, actually, we are interested in to know the types, distribution, and utilization of major and how resources and how they support human population and how are affected by it. So the objectives are 3. 1, in the end of this module, the students should be able to outline the main renewable and non-renewable resources, but also to demonstrate the fact that if resources like land, water, soils, vegetation are abused, they turn to be non-renewable. Now let's go step by step. Let's now try to see what we mean by renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are those which regenerate, like water, land, forest, food, energy. They keep on, land and water are fixed on the earth. However, they can be used over and over again, provided they are not overused, because they regenerate from time to time. Water, for example, we have the hydrological cycle, we have the conventional currents, whatever. So water is always regenerating. We shall see this in details later on. Even land, for that matter, one might think, how can land regenerate? There are ways. When we reach that point, we shall explain. Now, non-renewable resources, just the opposite of the renewable. That is those which cannot regenerate once depleted through overexploitation, such as natural minerals. We have minerals and deposits in our country. But once we are not praying for their depletion, but there will reach a time when such deposits will be depleted. So then there will be no more minerals. But even renewable ones cannot be replenished quickly if overused. For example, soil. If soil is not taken care of, for example, against erosion, you find the soil is eroded. Then you end up with infertile soil. Or when you use fertilizers, so to some extent, some fertilizers, the soil can reach a point where it cannot be, it loses some of the minerals. They just fall down to the subsoil, and then you find that the upper soil loses minerals. So this is what we are trying to what I'm saying, those are the two types of resources. Now, land is said to be the major natural physical resource. Why? I have listed a number of points there. It's renewable from infertility by fertilizers. When you use land and it falls out of fertility, then you can add some fertility. It could be industrial, or it could be natural, or it could be compost, humus, and so on. Also, to determine the physical characteristics, it's land which possesses the topography, the soil quality, the quantity, water content, local climates, are ones which also influence land. Now, these physical characteristics, they also, the land, once these characteristics are found in land, they also influence other factors like vegetation, type of soil, and determine the type of living organisms that could be found in the soil. Also, land becomes a resource only when it is used. If you have idle land, no human activity is taking place, no agriculture, mining or whatever, livestock keeping, that use land is not productive. It's not that type of land which we are referring here. It becomes only a resource once it's used, and we get utility from the land. Now, the distribution of land, as I said before, the quality of land is not uniform. It's variable. For example, distribution of land globally, suitable arable land, only 30%, and cultivated mountains, 20%, deserts or steppe at 20%, ice, tundra 20%, not for cultivation 10%. So when you reduce all these areas, when you reduce these negative or less productive parts or non-productive parts, so you remain more or less with 30%, which is out of 100, 30% to 40% land, which can be utilized. Now, what does this mean? It means that we have to take care of making some, taking measures that will ensure that land is conserved and becoming more productive. So, in general, land supports a myriad of human activity ranging from cultivation, human grace. That's why in the first statement I said man-land relationship is eternal. It started the prehistorical, now we are still having the same relationship. What is changing is time, space, and technology. But the man and the land they coexist. You cannot separate them. Thus, proper land use planning is needed in order to utilize land efficiently and economically. Water is another resource. We are referring here to natural water. Yeah, it is a renewable resource because it is continuous delivery to the land by hydrological cycle. It is always the hydrological cycle taking place, not seasonally. Not all the areas which get this hydrological cycle throughout the year, but as we shall see later on, this is now becoming a problem due to climate change. But at least we have hydrological cycle. It covers almost 75% of the Earth's surface, all the oceans, all the lakes, rivers, drainage system, all these, they constitute almost 75%. So you can see the importance of water. So without water, life is under threat. See, it is important in sustaining the biosphere. The sphere that sustains life. It's within the atmosphere. You see, uses of water are multiple. It's not possible to list all the uses of water, but you can simply say that all human activities, all socio-economic activities that you can think of, there are hardly any which do not need water. When you talk of domestic use, there are various. Talk of irrigation, various. Talk of industries and so on. So you cannot exhaust this. This is so long. Availability and amount of water on the Earth's surface depend on the runoff. You see. And I repeat, this is very important. Availability and the amount of water on the Earth's surface depends on the runoff, on the groundwater, and the rate of precipitation, and evapotranspiration. These they work in combination. So it's good to ensure that all these sources are really taken care of. Now, the following table shows freshwater runoff of major regions. You can see there is variation in the supply of water, in the volume of water, in different areas, due to different physical factors. Where there are many deserts, or where there are so many, you find that the amount of water it shrinks. And where there are less human, where there are various, maybe the environmental care to ensure that the hydrological cycle continuous, uninterrupted. You find that. But the governing issue in this volume, you find that variation volume of water in a year is high during the wet season, are often coupled with floods, and low during the dry season may result in drought. So the amount of water keeps on fluctuating depending on the ecological condition, particularly weather, seasons, and moreover, in this case, time variation causes even uneven distribution, because during the dry season you have less amount of water, but during the wet season you have ample water. During the dry season, the impact of the sun rays, high evaporation rates, also it depends on the type of land. If it's a desert land where even precipitation is very low, then the amount of water is lower, or lowest. Another source is underground water. Underground water is overused. Underground water is actually a reserve which accumulated centuries and centuries. This is due to water percolating down the earth. Then you have water collections in the aquifer. Now, this goes on continuously, but this the level can vary, or can fall, or can rise, depending on the surface of the earth. If there are factors which can sustain the amount of water, such as trees, regular hydrological cycle, the level remains high. But where there are negative effects factors, then the level can fall or shrink. For example, the impact now of falling water table. There is also, you can see, loss of accessible water resources, both for human beings and animals and the other living organisms. You see. Also, another impact is reduction of water surface, e.g., drying of rivers and so on. So, the drying of rivers, we have several rivers which used to be perennial rivers. In Africa, we have several perennial rivers. Now, if you can read the map of Africa, you can see maybe the main ones are the Nile, the Congo, Limpopo, but it used to be several. But these rivers are decreasing as time goes with the aridity. You see, so that's one feature which can show that even the water table below, needless to go and measure, it's also falling. Also, the intrusion of salt water into aquifer. As water shrinks, you see, now it means some rocks, salt rocks, which actually, what does the salt water actually contaminates the water. So even that little water which is left, it falls, which the little water which remains is also contaminated. So you can see how these are the impact of environmental degradation can go down to impact of water quality. Now, water quality. The quality of water is determined by dissolved salts in proper proportions. This is well understood in chemistry, so we cannot mention all the proportions. But generally, as a geographer, you have to know a bit of this. Those are salts which normally are essential for the body: phosphorus, iron, whatever. There are proportions which actually are found in water. So rainwater as such is not quality water, just say, for drinking, because in order to get these minerals, the water should pass through the ground. So, since rainwater does not go through the ground in the air, So quality is a bit not better as compared to the water which percolates, gathers some minerals, dissolve the minerals. That is health even for drinking. So with the water, we sum up here. Now let's see another resource. Forests, which is a foam vegetation. Also, like in the other part of the land, we also have renewable resources, the regenerate. If human beings have to use forests for their own human works, building, timber, whatever, but they should use the forest in such a way that there is some is left for regeneration. This is the issue, is whereby we are talking about sustainable forests, whereby the depletion of forests does not assure us of getting a sustainable forest. So it's the wise use of forests that can ensure that some of the forests can be renewable. Apart from meeting various human wants, they maintain ecological diversity. So this is very important, as we shall see later, because without forests, actually, life on the planet Earth is under threat. So we shall come across on the impacts of challenges later. So, challenges and forests. The excessive need for forest products, see, by industrialized countries, which they clear, cut down trees for industrial consumption, mainly timber, but also in the developing countries we have this problem of clearing land for agriculture, because the majority of the people are peasant they practice peasant agriculture. And so these factors actually cause diverse negative effects, and that we are going to see them. Bad effects, you can summarize them as heavy soil erosion, absence of forests. That means the ground remained uncovered. So when rain comes down, particularly heavy rains, the runoff carry of the soil. So that's also this is common in areas where there's excessive forest tree cutting. Also, floods and global climate change are said that is the impact of lack of or depletion of forests. So that's why we have programs now, they are advocating on the reforestation. We see it's only because trees, they actually are an essential component in the ecosystem. We cannot live without trees. Think of various importance regarding trees. We end up saying really trees are they sustain the life of the unit of the globe. So threats of deforestation are grave developing countries due to population explosion. See. In the ancient times, this was not actually the issue, where natural forests were there, the population was small, so that was not a threat. But this, as the world develops, the population increases, so it's when the problem now comes. So there is a need to match population growth and the sustainability of forests. Now, these days the world now, due to increase in population and various industrial activities, there are isolated cases of forest cover. For example, in Europe, which is now highly urbanized, definitely trees are cut down to usher in urbanization, industrialization, and so on. So very few areas in Europe have indigenous forest cover. Now, tropical countries like Latin America, many have disappeared succumbing to industrialization. This process of cutting timber, particularly in America, Brazil, this has depleted a lot of the indigenous forests, which almost have a variety of indigenous species. Now, vast forest reserves with a variety of indigenous species are now found in the Amazon basin, but even the Amazon we had, I think in a few weeks or few months, the Amazon was under the threat of ethanol, as it was burning forests, wildfires. I think now they have taken control, but destroyed a number of species that cannot be recovered. Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Central Africa, the Congo Basin. But we cannot say they are safe. These areas, which pockets which with the forest cover, are not so far safe, particularly in the developing countries where the human activities and the population pressure is increasing from day to day. So this calls us to think aloud how to protect this soil also. The nature of quantity of vegetation that can be grown on a given piece of land may depend on the characteristics of the soil. Different types of crops, they need different types of soils. Even the health of crops depend on the nutrients which are from the soil. So soil also is an important natural resource, and it can be defined according to its composition as a mix of organic minerals, organic matter, soil animals. See, when you talk about soil animals, that's the animals which live in the soil. They are very important. Rats, you see, you can see. They're important in the mixing of the soil. Although they don't plan to do that. See, by virtue of being the soil, and when they look for various requirements, food and so on, digging holes and so on, they mix the soil. We have soil organisms, which some are concerned with the decomposition of matter in order to form soil. Its many functions include storage of water and mineral nutrients, anchor, that is, trees, they stand on the soil, they are anchored there, supporting land and many particle plants. So, since this is a geography subject, we have limited time, we cannot go into the characteristics of soil formation. I think this you can read it from the references that were referred to. There are so many, and time is not our ally. Now we go to another resource, that's food. When you talk of food, you are talking about agriculture. And the prehistoric agricultural revolution was largely determined by climate and soil conditions. That's why we say in the prehistoric times, the ecological and the environmental factor was essential, very essential in determining human development. That's why we call it environmental determinism. Because by that time, limited science and technology, people had said they could use a piece of land when it's fertile, but when this land becomes infertile, they shift to another, though they can practice the shifting cultivation. The land was vast. So that was during that time. So actually, they depended on the grace of nature. Even the culture, those were bananas who were cultivable and become staple food, they have a banana culture, you see. Where palm oil was the main source of human food, then you have that type of culture in Western Africa. You find almost every country is growing palm oil and so on. You can give us many examples. Even here in Tanzania, we go to some places, we find that the staple food maybe is maize or is rice. So that is how the examples of environmental determinism by that time. But now with the modern technology involving of fertilizers, irrigation, improved seed variety, control pests, and food crops, you see, things have changed. So it's modern science which actually which determine the type of culture. You see now, we used to have hunters in those old days, but now, with the land pressure and the involvement, now hunters now have the Hazabe now are in problems because they used to live on land determinism. Now, the new technology, now we have problems with resource scarcity. But nowadays, actually, science and technology are the ones which determine the type of culture. The urban culture normally actually is influenced mainly by modern technology. Even farming activities. We have farmers, peasantry farming now internalize or they incorporating modern agriculture. There is a change in agriculture due to science and technology. Food production has also stimulated trade between food-grown countries to those with food scarcity. So it's not a question of saying that this environment does not favor the growth of crops. So now what are we going to do? Simply, you can opt for trade. We have now the Middle East countries. Yesterday I said that there used to be desert land, useless desert land. But with science and technology, now they have mineral oil, they exploit, they are richest nations. Now, though they don't plant the trees, they don't practice agriculture, they import. Or sometimes they export to other countries which demand food. So this is what I'm saying, that with the science and technology, this has changed the whole idea. From scarcity to have plenty. Now, after we have now explored all the resources, now the issue here comes in is to how to conserve the resources. As I said, the resources are limited, and the population now is increasing from day to day, particularly the developing countries. And we said also some of the resources, like the forests, they actually sustain the life of this country because they absorb some of the gases, carbon dioxide and on. So now there is a need to conserve. If we let people do the way they do, there are various solutions. As I said, this lecture is, this time of presentation is limited. I cannot give all the solutions. But I've summarized them into two things, that if resources used sustainably can lead to sound social development. The resources I've mentioned, land, water, forests, and so on. If they are used sustainably, that's one way of ensuring that there is sound social development. But also, if technology is misused and as well lead to various disasters, as I've already mentioned. So it is a collective responsibility. Those who are industrialized should ensure that we don't degrade the environment through the aspect which I've already mentioned. And those who are in the developing countries also, they have a role to play to ensure that the environment remains safe and sustainable for the interest of the global development. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic on theories of domestication, plants and animals, origin and dispersal. This is a very important stage in human development because we are talking about plants and animals which constitute food for man. that is a very interesting thing. Like in any topic that you discuss, you have to go through the historical background. So we are compelled to analyze the evolution of agriculture and different approaches that interpret different theories of domestication. So students, you are supposed to observe the following objectives, trace the history of agriculture, evaluate the different approaches, and explain the theory of domestication. Now, before we tackle these theory of approaches, we normally start with questions which actually brought the need for theories in order to answer such questions, like who were the agriculturists? When did they start activity? Where was it started? And why was it started? I think these questions are very difficult to answer, because given the fact that in the prehistorical time, there was no scripture. So in most cases, we depend on archaeology, theories, and approaches. I think that's why we rely on theories. That's a scientific reason. What is the difference between theory and approach? In this respect, the theory is a prediction of an idea about certain situations supported by scientific arguments. Now, in order to uncover the theory, you need to have an approach. So the approach appears as the means of uncovering knowledge. To establish theory, you have to have an approach. So, many of the theories based on the general environmental theory called as environmental determinism. That's how the environment determined life. By that time, where man had low level of technology, it was the environment that which determined his life. So, you find that the environment also determined the domestication of animals and plants, which constituted food, subsistence level. Also shaped man's culture through interaction with. These explain the theory of domestication. The theory of domestication is divided into two. There's that old version, and that old version being gradually being modified to new domestication theory. We shall see these in turns. So let's start with the old theory of domestication. This is based on 4 approaches. We have the Greek philosophy, we have the rationalist approach, German approach, and diffusion. The Greek philosophy, that they say that, which is commonly agreed with men, that early men lived by hunting and gathering. And gradually, as population increased, food became scarce. So it became very difficult to get food because they had to travel longer distances, spend a lot of time searching for food. Now, it's so these are among the reasons which made man change his way of life and started to domesticate animals, other than hunting and chasing animals or collecting, which was a bit uncertain. At that stage, he has reached now a settled life. Now, criticism on this theory, that is theory applicable in temperate countries, particularly when you say that he started domesticating animals. In the temperate climate, crops are very limited, but animals are a bit more. So I think this was an experience taken from the temperate, where animals at least were the most immediate type of food that can be obtained. That's why they start with the animal. But also it's criticized, it's refuted because domestication of agriculture does not always start with the animals. Not everywhere they start with the animals. So should lead it to develop some kind of flexibility. Also, it doesn't say which one of the two was 10. Besides that, we also, it's heavily reliant on the environmental determinism. Because let's understand that man is a thinking animal. We are a thinking animal. So, emphasis on environmental determinism per se, it invalidates man's integrity because man can think. So, emphasis being more on environmental determinism, they also overlooked the potentiality of man to think and influence the environment. The rationalist approach, this went a further step. They said agriculture originated from several places simultaneously. Domestication started not always with the animals, then plants, but could be easy, it could be either way. So to start with that point, that agriculture originated from several places simultaneously, this makes sense because the world is very broad. And it's not easy to think that agriculture moved from one point to another. And the climate or the environment is everywhere. So the crops is completely not appealing to think that crops were only found at a particular specific place. I think it gives the impression that it was ubiquitous throughout the world, different types of crops. So to think that started from one place and then moved to another, that actually is not a bit convincing. So with domestication, it's observed flexibility that you can start with one of them. While agriculture is influenced by environmental conditions which differ spatially, that's okay. The spatial difference gave people the option to start the domestication of animals or plants suitable to the local environment. This is the Greek philosophy. The Greek philosophy, they concentrated more on this. I think this four. I think I'll come back. So criticism on the rationalists that they also emphasized more on the environmental determinism. But they added a new knowledge. See, domestication started in several places simultaneously. Also, they said domestication not always started with the animals. The German approach was mainly led by Rans and Hans. These were concentrated in knowing which one of the two, plants or animals, started to be domesticated. They agreed with the rationalists, as I have already presented. Now, diffusion approach, they argue that the animals and plants possibly were domesticated simultaneously and they originated in different places, then spread to other areas. This is not new because it was being observed by the rationalists. But also, diffusionist argument is based on the idea of dominant determination. That there could be two options, to start with the animals or to start with the plants, that people can decide. So it was a matter of decision rather than what started. So this is, it was determined by the people themselves. Should they start planting or should they start keeping animals? Summary, as you can see the summary now, they have different ideas. Some they say animals, some they say plants started to be domesticated, even in the areas. There are areas which some theorists, they think that maybe there are specific areas where where domestication started and then spread to the rest of the world. But there are those also again who say that was not possible because almost everything was everywhere. So I think domestication started simultaneously and then diffused to other areas. But the question like the following are not yet answered. Which animals were first domesticated? Why were these animals domesticated? Where were these animals domesticated? These are not yet answered. Some views from different theorists, of course, they say the dog was the first to be domesticated because it's a companion of man for quite a long time. Since he was a hunter, it was the dog that which actually assisted to chase and catch the beasts. So I think under such circumstances, if you are to consider animals, the dog would be the one. But in some other grounds, people think that maybe the cat was the first to be domesticated, particularly in the farming community, because they were bothered by rats, so they wanted a pet which could catch such rats which destroyed their crops. So this also is not always easier to say which one. Some say the pig was domesticated first, and then plants. These are ideas, opinions. Of course, they give reasons. Others argue that most of the domesticated animals were not for flesh. For example, in India, even today, they just keep cattle. They regard cattle as a second animal. It's for religious purpose. But in some cases also, the horse was taken by witch doctors as something which for rituals or even for wars and other things. Now, an attempt to answer where the domesticated animals were domesticated, I decided to draw this table. For example, in Kushtan, Southeast Asia, they say first cattle and pigs, but time is not known. In North Africa, according to archaeological evidence, say goats and sheep were diffused from the Middle East. Again, this one is contradictory. We thought that maybe goats and sheep animal rearing started in North Africa. They say it was diffused from Middle East. Why not Africa? So we shall consider that point later on. Why not Africa and other continents like Australia were not yet regarded as they were cradle for domestication of animals and plants? Now, what evidence do we have normally which substantiate this kind of observations? Paintings, drawings by early people, symbols for different animals, so forth. Some of these symbols were developed gradually to alphabetical numbers that we have today, or alphabetical letters. So some were developed from such symbols. For example, alpha is developed from a simple diagram showing a head of a cow with the horns, then and others. You can read from your own reference books that have been often, even the notes. The question of plants, this is also about trying to summarize agriculture originated in areas, Thailand, that year 2700 BC. We have Asia, from Israel, Iraq, upperland rice started followed by paddy. Upperland rice was preferred because that level of technology was not easier to adopt it. Paddy, because paddy thrives in lowlands, where lowlands are prone for floods and so on. So they avoided such areas and just found the upperland where they can grow upland rice. Agriculture originated areas also in highlands of Peruvian and Peru. These were mainly veggiculture. We shall explain later why veggiculture and not seediculture. This will become later. But this information, sometimes they are affected by lack of documentation. Proper documentation from theorists. There are a number of omissions. You see, for example, when you take the case of Africa, in this case, they say blue cotton, but there are a lot of other things which were grown in Africa, crops. Also, in the case of Engaruka, Northeast Africa, all the moons signify that only agricultural activities, but it's not actually mentioned in the prehistorical time. We think perhaps if it's based on the argument of iron revolution, maybe there was iron is some subject to rust, maybe it rusted and then some evidence disappeared. But this is yet not a satisfactory explanation why much has not been found in Africa regarding the domestication of animals. And it seems that Africa has been on the receiving end, which is, I think, as I said before, the environment was more or less present everywhere. Why particularly Europe? Why particularly in Americas? Why particularly in some parts of Asia, not Africa? This also is an issue subject for discussion. For example, there's a question for discussion. For those who claim that agriculture originated from specific areas, I answered it in a question form. That is, if so, what were eating when people are eating in Africa? You see? This is very interesting. Now, somebody now here by Greeks try to show the special plants in the selected regions. You can see America, 50% indigenous and outside. Africa, 40 indigenous, 40 America. Europe, crops, 8 indigenous, 20 Latin, and you see. But it leaves some questions. For example, Australia does not appear anywhere, as I said before. Where were these aborigines eating? It doesn't appear to the mind. So it seems that the two previous questions indicated either both of the following opinion. The domestication history is not yet complete, or perhaps domestication theorists have double standards in reporting in favor of some regions. Why so? Because Africa is on seeing the receiving end, while there are cases we know that there have been some cotton growing in West Africa, even industry of spinning cotton. We are there, we have the Monomotapa kingdoms and the others. So there was development, there was some kind of crop domestication, but it's not there. So there is a need to read critically review different authors why Africa is seen as the receiving end in domestication. So you can discuss this. Now today's theory of domestication. Today's theory is extracted from one scholar known as Carl Stoer in 1952. He tried to review the old domestication theory by trying to add some knowledge here and there, but he didn't do much. We shall see, because still so many things remain not comprehensive. Actually, we shall try to see how saw the objective of to explain today's theory, to evaluate Stoer's thesis on domestication. So to examine the old theory, all this that we have seen that the rationalists, different theorists which try to advance the development of the domestication theory, tried also to criticize them in a way. Now let's go and see what we are seeing. He agreed that the mode of crop dispersion would be one of the following, all of them. Trade, we have Arabs in the East Africa coast, we have the Portuguese, they came in with some plants, you see. With exploration, we have Christopher Columbus and the others. They brought in Europe, for example, some plants which were not found They were found in America. We have colonialists. They were keen because they interested in commercial crops. You see, for example, the Germans in 1932, they brought in coffee. Also, we have sisal, introduced it. We have, colonialists in many cases, Portuguese brought in crops from different countries because they had other spheres of influence outside East Africa. And so wherever they went, they dispersed the crops which they brought from other areas. Cassava is said to be indigenous in Angola. It is also said to be in Thailand. White sisal in Mexico. Now, criticisms about soil. So makes two main criticisms against the old domestication theory. One, that the assertion that Iraq and Mesopotamia as the origin of domestication, he refuted this. As these areas are prone for frequent floods and drought, how can this become now the mantle of domestication if they have such environmental hazards frequently hitting the area? So he proposed that perhaps the hill areas of tropical forests of Java, possible origin first domestication of plants which were vegetative. You can read the soil conditions for domestication of agriculture, which you have it in your notes. So to conclude this part, that agriculture originated under tropical conditions, according to soil, and with plenty of food, high diversity of species, hilly, not low, lowlands prone to floods, and woodlands easier for farm by sedentary skilled people. So this is the summary according to soil. Now, evaluation of cow soil and other domestication theories. Each one attempted to give some knowledge, thorough knowledge about the domestication. But they didn't reach a consensus. You cannot sit down and say that this is the general understanding on how domestication of crops took place. So each one has a different view from the other. Some they agreed and some they conflicted. So we can say that now we have two main camps here. We have one camp which says domestication started in a specific region, then spread to other regions. Some say it started from the Middle East, and they say Central China. Some theorists say Southeast Asia, even Ethiopia, America, Europe. So these, they say that it's originated from one region or one place and then spread to the rest of the world. But we have the other camp which say that domestication started in different places, simultaneous and dispersed. So you as a scholar, you have to take your own position. Which position you think? According to me, I'm not influencing you. According to me, I think the last part is the last camp is convincing, because everywhere the environment was there, the crops of different types. And see, it's not appealing to the mind that all the crops of certain area were dispersed to the other area. I think this process of domestication and the dispersal, they took place simultaneous in different places. So I give you the activity there. You can write something based on this presentation, what you have read, suggested, write the origin of agriculture. 2, evaluate cow soil spaces on domestication. But I have also decided to give you an assignment, which will require you to read other theories. We have limited time. I can't present each and every theory here. But this assignment will broaden your knowledge So you are required to go and read about theorists' views, specifically Cain, 1942, Isaac, 1973, 1974, and the others. But also add your own views, because you're also a scholar. And we are still, this debate is ongoing, so you are not too late. Now let's go to another new topic. This is about distribution of major agricultural regions. In this respect, we try to see how major agricultural regions and explain how formed, how they are distributed, and analyze some practical and methodological problems, and examine agricultural systems by which and grid. As I'm saying, we have limited time. It's not easier to exhaust all the theorists who have presented their work regarding distribution of major agricultural regions. So this is a case study of Whittle and representing the old perception, while Greece represents the contemporary perception on the distribution of major agricultural regions. So the objectives are there: to evaluate the sort of historical geography of farming system. Second, discuss the practical and the methodological problems in establishing typologies of agriculture, and lastly, to describe the major agricultural typology. As I said in the previous topic, you can't avoid going back to the history. So we have also evaluated the historical geography of farming systems, because these theories, they built knowledge from what they existed from the previous perceptions. So from there they extracted, they made observation, examined, and came up with new ideas. So we are not going to go much deeper into the historical geography, but we shall just hint where did they start their work, and so that we can have a starting point. Now, when we talk about practical and methodological the methodology in establishing farming system, the methodology here we are referring to is how to approach this study. Which method we use to approach to obtain the knowledge that we grids also, or which that type of methodology, provided it was a scientific methodology, the one which brought up them to write their reports on the agricultural distribution of agriculture. The approaches we are referring to are four. We have population growth. That's as the population increases, there is also the need to intensify farming because the land becomes scarce. So the other methodology on how major agricultural regions were determined are the response to variation of physical environment. The physical environment is not uniform. So whenever it changes, it's likely that even the type of agriculture also changes accordingly. The other approach is the use of distance separating farmers from markets. Farmers are very sensitive. They can even decide to change the type of crops according whether the market is near or far. When it's far, for example, if they are cultivating potatoes and the market is very, they are cultivating maybe vegetables. If the market is very far, it's most likely they can abandon growing vegetables because they need special care. They are fragile goods. They can easily go bad. They can even rot. So they can change. So the distance of the market from the farming place is also a factor that can determine the type of typology of agricultural region. Response of farmers to change in farm product price inputs. This has been witnessed in Tanzania. Some crops, for example, in Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro was a leading producer of coffee in the 60s and 70s. But when coffee price fell, they decided they substituted to something else, maybe to vegetables and whatever. This is common. Now, when they do that, that change can as well influence the typology of agriculture that is taking place. Classification of agriculture into farming systems. Why classify? Why classify? I think this takes us back to the last presentation which I made on, I think in the knowledge area 1. We discussed a lot why we classify resources. The same reason can apply here. Just refer to those reasons. Basically, you cannot study all different types in their varieties, which are very numerous. You have to classify these into subsections, subgroups, so that you can study them meaningfully. Even agriculture can't study all any kind of cultivation. Then you have to find a way of grouping farming system with similar characteristics should be grouped as one, and others should be grouped like that for convenience of study. So by using certain criteria such that units of similar properties, characteristics are grouped together to form types of agriculture or agricultural systems. Now, similarly, in this case, you find some problems in classifying agriculture. Generally, it's easier to say the criteria for classification are so and so. For example, generally, there are different criteria that can be used in the classification of farming systems. They are listed here. Some geographers that group by crops grown. That can be also another kind of classification. Some they group according to animals reared, or farm implements used, size of the farm, type of climate, type of soil, distance between farm and market, and so on. But in most cases, if you group these singularly, you are likely to get a problem, because in reality on Earth, nothing takes place without interaction with the other activities. So that one might bring you a problem. But these are just in theory to show you how, which criteria can be used, but they can as well be harmonized to make the study easier. Problems of practicing methodology of classification. Yeah. In any kind of classification, should we undergo some scientific processes? That is, one have to collect data, one have to collect, compile and publish data and so on. But here we have two main problems regarding practicing. When you are practicing the criteria of the field. In developed countries where the advancement technology is high, you find that the collection, comparison, publication can be done. The problem, the time which is taken to collect, compile, and publish that, this takes sometimes a longer time, or sometimes they aggregate certain information to generalize. When you generalize, that becomes a bit difficult, because when you generalize something, it loses its original outlook or property. But this is commonly found in developed countries. But in developing countries, the problem is serious, because even where data is collected, the collected data is inaccurate, due to low technology, and affect information collection and processing. Even the processing of information takes longer. There are so many problems, omissions, overstatements, and so on. So the information find that comes out is very distorted information. But also there is low social demand for application statistics. When most of the planning is done with rudimentary data, or sometimes political decisions. They just influence the kind of... so these problems are the ones make actually practicing methodology of data, of collection of data for classification of regions become a bit difficult. Now, let's now go specifically observing Whittle's farming systems classification criteria. Whittle identified 5 criteria. 1, the crop and livestock association. Secondly, the methodology of growing crops and production stock. Third one is the intensify intensity of application of land labor, capital, organization, output. Fourth, disposal of the products for consumption, whether subsistence or commercial. And fifth, the structure used to house and facilitate the farming operation, where they are stored. We have seeds and so on for storage. These are the criteria which Whittle used. Now, it's upon those criteria which led Whittle to come out with 11 farming systems in the world. I think they are visible there, you can read them. They are also found in your notes, so there's no need to go each by one, and so on. So this one I think you can take care of. But we are interested to know what were the... this is a map we use to fit in the 11 farm systems on the globe. See? So now let's go to the criticisms. He overlooked the type of tenure, size, and layout of farms. You see, in Africa, for example, not only Africa, in developing countries, we have this problem of tenureship. Some people, they retain land. There's a lot of land holding. So, and the one who is holding land has the decision which crops should be grown. Or sometimes they can decide not to grow any crops. Now, how are you going to demarcate this in the agricultural regions? Not up here. The size also differs from the peasantry farm sizes to commercial. There's a lot of differences there. How do you classify the two non-identical cases? Again, Whittle is criticized on concentrating more on type of farm, like plantation system, shifting agriculture. So as if the rest of type of farms, farming is not there. So it's a bit biased to certain type of agriculture. Now, this violates also the principle of guiding the criteria for determining a region, because it should be mutually exclusive. That does not have any external influence on it. Now, let's go to David Green, 1974, 9 major types. Actually, Green, what he did was he tried to work on what Whittle's, where Whittle's ended. So actually, he used even the same map, that one I've already shown you, and from that one, he came up with some 9 major farming systems. You see, these are the 9 farming systems by Whittle, by Greeks, based on the map which I've already shown you about. So the shifting agriculture, wet rice cultivation in Asia, pastoral nomadism, the Mediterranean agriculture, mixed farming in Western Europe and North Africa and America, dairy, the plantation system, ranching, large-scale grain production. But as you can see, the globe is so wide, and the varieties and species of different types of crops is not, even this one, you say in some extent, is not existing. So there's a lot of remain to be done in order to come up with a consensus, which is very difficult because given the variation of physical environment, variation of technology and so on, it's not easier to come with a conventional type of major agricultural regions. In this case, what do we do? Well, Greeks have done something because at least they've pushed one step forward from what we left. So in most cases, the Greeks classification is the one which is used in the contemporary times. So we can say still some research is going on. So it's not easier now to say now we have to give up. So knowledge is a continuous process. So maybe others will develop it over time. We develop the classification much better. But there are also other criteria of classifying global farming systems. Some they decide to classify according to environmental factors. I think this is the oldest way of classifying agricultural systems because, as we say, though we are always saying environmental determinism is overtaken by time, still environmental determinism, particularly in developing countries, still have influence. So you find that this can be also used some environmental factors like moisture. For example, 60 main regions, moisture sufficient, and those moisture which are not moisture sufficient. We have a number of regions. There are also regions which have some different functions, agricultural functions. Some interested in livestock keeping, also that one can also form another region. So the classification is according to the environment, according to the climate. When you go to the tundra, the type of climate also has the influence on the type of agriculture which is performed. You go to the desert, you find also the different kind of crops which are found there, like dates and others which can withstand aridity. So in this perspective, the environment also can be used to classify climate agricultural regions in one way or another. So to conclude, before we conclude, can you go you can go through your notes and then find that there are more explanations. Also read some other more references and textbooks. Even in the internet, you can get a lot of information about this topic. This topic is widely read, and you can have enough information about it. Now, there is no one standard criteria of classifying global farming system. As you have seen, there are different criteria used, and each criteria comes with something different from the other. So we can conclude that there is no one standard or conventional way of classifying global farming system. But also, the existing ones depend on one's purpose. One can have a certain, maybe his or her purpose is to investigate to what extent a particular environment influences a particular region. So you can as well undertake an environmental approach so that you can get what you intend to learn. For example, now we have climate change. which is challenging agriculture and so on. So even the regions now we have, they have been tempered with the climate change. So you can undergo now another research to find out whether what has been established by Greece or Vito are the same or they have changed over time due to climate change. So, but also many of the criteria are modified from Vito's global farming system. So, in the belief that knowledge is incremental, knowledge is not static. So we keep on increasing knowledge upon the previous scholars. So Greeks took the world to a certain level, and maybe another new Greek will come from you, or you are the one, maybe you can take us another further step. So, but so far, this the status of this classification ends up here. Now, let's go on another new topic, which I'll take you brief shortly. That is on the physical, environmental, and agricultural location. Actually, this one I've tried to preempted it when I said the environment has some influence on agriculture. Actually, the lecturer tried to analyze the agricultural regions influenced by environmental factors. As I said before, I think even in human geography, which I said previously that it was human geography being taken over by modern geography, but it's still there. When you go to regional geography, is where you can see now how the environment influences agriculture. For example, in mountainous areas, you find the type of agriculture which is also the one which cope with the physical environment of climate, temperatures, rainfall. You find some certain crops that can withstand or can conducively be grown. So let's go and we shall see which regions are formed by using the physical environmental criteria. So you are supposed in the end to know and to discuss the physical environment factor affecting the local location of agriculture, explain the general principles affecting the location of agriculture, and identify and describe agricultural regions based on physical environmental factors. I'm not going into the details because these they need. I cannot provide you each and every information. I'm just the one who is trying to guide you. So you are the traveler of knowledge to knowledge areas. So I'm just guiding you so that you can increase some more flesh and beef up this information in your own by reading, of course. I'll just summarize it like this. The main factor influencing agriculture will be climate. Dominates because the soils are also affected by climate. When you have climate cannot thrive without soil. These are two legs of the same body. So they influence the type of crops that can be grown and of course the type of region, agricultural region. Soil also. The world is divided into soil zones, and each soil zone, if you observe it carefully, have a certain type of crops which support that particular, is supported by that type of soil. So when you use soil to determine the agricultural regions, then you are using one of the components of environmental factors. Topography. How the slopes of the area can as well affect the type of crops. Crops which are grown higher and those who are grown below the slope, they might be quite different, you see. So also this is due to a physical environmental factor. Again, at local level, you find that there is evapotranspiration. Areas which have great vegetation cover, have thick vegetation cover, like in the Congo forest, whatever, the tropical marine forest, you find that there is high evapotranspiration. This also has influence to the climate, high humidity. Then you expect also there's rainfall increment due to such they can influence the climate of the place. For example, in Dar es Salaam, by virtue of being near the sea or near the Indian Ocean, you find that a lot of evaporation is taking place. But also there are forests around the Pugu. You find that these have some contribution to the humidity. So you also find the type of agriculture taking place also is also influenced locally by evapotranspiration. As I said, there are slopes also, temperatures, as well as soil salinity. Where soil salinity is high, you find certain crops cannot thrive except crop which they adapt to salinity, like mangroves. You find them thriving along the coast because they are suitable, but other crops cannot be found. So, in short, you can say these are the main factors influencing agriculture. In one way or another. So, what you're supposed to learn that don't consider that the physical environment there determines each and everything. There are other things that they match together with the physical environment that have to be considered. See, the environment, there is an optimal environment for each crop that is giving maximum output for minimum input for resources. But also, there are external factors which influence the physical ones. For example, what resources are available? The physical environment can be unsuitable for agriculture. For example, in a desert land. However, we don't only rely on the desert, but this development of science and technology, this is irrigation. So this can be influenced by modern technology. So don't take it per se that the physical environment can just determine each and everything, but there are also still some other external factors, like, as I said, resources, whether they are viable or not. And in that regard, we can see which resources need to be minimized. What crops or stock combinations. You see, you can, instead of saying perhaps that this environment can just support crops, but it can be a combination of crops and livestock. So the combination now is not only environmental determinant, but it's also decision-making determinant. That's, as I said before, what we call as determinant factors. A person can decide, a human being can decide what to grow and what not to grow. So this is those are dominant determinants. They are not environmental, but they are dominant determinants coming from the decision of the man or people or community. Also, the interaction between environment factors. The good products might be a function of so many factors acting on moisture, soil. So what you say, what I'm saying, that those environmental factors should be taken care with respect to the fact that they can be influenced by human beings themselves, but also they can be influenced by other factors in combination, such as the one we mentioned, moisture, soil, and temperature. To wind up this part of the presentation, let's now see environmental factors affecting agricultural activities global scale. We have seen those factors which are positive, that is, they are pro-environmental. That is, they motivate the environment to support certain types of agricultural activity. But there are also those which they affect agricultural activity. Conservation, now these can be classified into 6 main regions. We find the region 1, for example, with 2 harvests here from the same land. That's double cropping controlled by temperature. You see, temperature can control. In one season you don't get one type of crop, but in the other season you get another one. Region 2, region in which only one crop is possible per year, and supplemented by intercropping and normally during summer seasons. You see, Central Africa and East Africa. You see, actually, if human beings are interested in reaping throughout the year, they have some checks like this. They are controlled by some physical environment. Region 3, with 2 crops, periods of essentially similar grain with equal warmth. So this also has this another type of crops which are grown, which they also influence that region in that respect. So this marks the end of our presentation, because that other regions are presented them 4, 5, and 6, which more almost they are influenced by climate in one way or another. So I hope that now this marks up the end of the area 2, and you have to make a thorough revision in consideration of all the presentations which have been provided previously. I hope now you can go for further reading with a clear mind on what you are looking for, and I wish you each and every success in your endeavor in academics. Thank you very much.